Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming to tonight's event, Champions of Equality, whether you're attending in person or virtually. My name is Katie Berger, and I'm a senior student athlete at UNE and the founding president of UNE's Female Athlete Alliance.
I'm Alyssa Ehrenfried. I'm a senior student athlete as well, and a part of the UNE Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Officer for Female Athlete Alliance. This event has been organized in partnership with Maine Sports Commission, celebrating 50 years of Title IX.
We would like to thank our sponsors, the Provost Office, the CAS and WCHP Dean's Offices, Athletics, the Female Athlete Alliance, UNE Club Sports, the UNE Business and Exercise and Sports Performance Departments, and the Title IX Office.
We would also like to thank our planning team, Professor Vlachos, Professor Hawk, Patty Williams, Cynthia Ferber, Ashley Potvin-Fulford, and the UNE Office of Communications.
Title IX was passed by Congress on June 23, 1972. It states that no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation and be denied the benefits of or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance.
Title IX has made a lasting impression on girls and women in sports across the country. It has opened doors for participation in athletics and helped to ensure equal access and treatment.
The effort to achieve equal pay for equal play and overall equity in sports remains an area of focus for men and women in sport. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX and the Women's Sports Foundation, it's important to celebrate this landmark occasion and all the progress that has been made over the past 50 years. We are honored to hear from and have conversation with equality leaders who have dedicated their careers to championing female athletes and their right to play, compete, and win.
We'd now like to welcome our UNE President, James Herbert, to kick off tonight's event with some opening remarks.
So hello, thank you for that lovely welcome, Katie and Ashley. I appreciate it. And thank you both very much for the leadership roles you play at UNE, the many leadership roles. I'm very grateful. Thank you. And good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm so glad you could join us this evening to reflect on the impact that Title IX has had on collegiate athletes, as well as the opportunities women students have in their lives beyond graduation. Before I offer my perspective on the significance of Title IX, I'd like to thank some of the many people in the groups who helped make this event possible, echoing some of the words that Katie and Ashley said. And this includes Professor Katie Hawk and Amy Vlachos, the Female Athletic Alliance, the Athletics Department, and the Maine Sports Commission. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to express my appreciation to our esteemed keynote speaker, Angela Ruggiero, and our panelists, Abby Thelin and Emma Tiedemann, and our very own Heather Davis, of course. Thank you all for coming and joining us. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us tonight. We gather some 50 years after the passage of the Education Amendments of 1972, which included a clause that would become known as Title IX. This landmark legislation prohibits any person in the United States from being discriminated against on the basis of sex by any institution or educational program receiving federal financial assistance. As a result, our country's undergone transformative changes in terms of women's participation in athletics, STEM programs, and employment at colleges and universities. Additionally, these institutions have come to treat sexual harassment and sexual assault with the gravity that they deserve, and to ensure equal opportunities for pregnant and parenting students. I'm proud to say that UNE has demonstrated a consistent history of supporting Title IX in athletics and beyond. We've done this by making investments in the human capital necessary to ensure the equal treatment of all UNE community members. It's true that colleges and universities receiving federal funding are required by law to have an employee identified as a Title IX coordinator. But at many schools, this responsibility is only part of and not the main focus of that employee's job description. Title IX coordinators at such places often lack the institutional support and training to adequately manage the complexities of Title IX compliance on their campuses. It's a big job. It includes monitoring programs and resources for compliance, providing education and awareness to the community, and addressing complaints. Recognizing this, at UNE, we created a standalone Title IX coordinator position, and we've continued to allocate resources to provide education and support across the university. In 2018, we added additional staff to expand our efforts even further. We've also intentionally fostered a culture that prioritizes the success of women members of our community. The result is a community-wide effort to ensure we're doing all we can to support our women students. Our Title IX office, led by Angela Ruggiero, is met with a spirit of collaboration across the university. An example is our Green Dot Bystander Training Initiative program. Faculty, professional staff, and student groups help create events, offer educational resources, and offer training aimed at preventing gender-based violence. When it comes to athletics specifically, UNE can be proud of its multi-decade track record of commitment to gender equity. 3 of UNE's past 4 athletic directors have been women. And just in the last decade, we've added 3 new varsity sports for women. In 2012, we added women's ice hockey. In 2016, we added women's rugby. And just last year, in 2021, we added women's outdoor track and field. We're very proud of the women athletes that represent UNE on these teams, and indeed on all of our teams. They are role models for us all. Finally, I'd like to recount a recent decision we faced at UNE that exemplifies our commitment to our women athletes. Our women's swimming team was accepted to the Great Northeast Atlantic Conference for this season, the 2021-22 season, and had its first ever championship scheduled this past February, so just last month. As the event drew near, the weather report was awful. Snow, freezing rain, sleet, a real nor'easter trifecta. And we were concerned about the team being able to travel safely. The question was whether we should wait and see how the weather played out, knowing that if the team was delayed, some of our swimmers would meet the opening day's events, or if we should have our team leave a day early, which would incur additional costs for travel, meals, hotel rooms, etc. In a conversation with senior leadership, we very quickly made the decision to send the team early to ensure their safe travel while preserving the full championship experience for our athletes. And the team made us very proud, breaking a school record in the 800-meter freestyle relay and placing 3rd out of 10 teams overall in the championship. We all win when everyone, no matter their gender, enjoys equal access to the bounties of a college education and to college athletics participation. Across so many measures, our country is a vastly better place for women than it was in 1972. And yet, there remains much work to be done to close the gender gap in sports and in the world beyond sports. I'm grateful that UNE is able to play its part. And I'm so very pleased that we can take some time tonight to celebrate this milestone for Title IX and together to reflect on its legacy. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Reagan Carey, who's here representing the Maine Sports Commission. Thank you all very much.
Can't let her come on without being introduced. All right, thank you, President Herbert. We would like to thank the director of the Maine Sports Commission, Sheila Brennan-Nee, and specifically Reagan Carey for their effort and connections to make this event happen. Reagan Carey is a member of the Maine Girls and Women in Sports Committee, helping generate content, programming, and opportunities for girls and women in sport.
Carey is a 2-sport athlete, captaining both the ice hockey and volleyball teams during her time at Colby College. She carried the love of leadership into a career working in professional and Olympic sport.
A decade of work in both the NBA and NHL, with focus on sport development, performance, and marketing, afforded Carey an opportunity in 2010 to oversee USA Hockey's Women's Olympic and National Team, as well as associated development programs as the Director of Women's Ice Hockey.
Carey's leadership of the program produced a record number of World Championship victories, ultimately securing Olympic gold for women's ice hockey in the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea. Carey was inducted into the Maine Sports Hall of Fame in 2018. Please give a warm welcome to Reagan Carey.
Well, thank you. It's pretty great to be back here. I had the opportunity to bring a number of national team camps here, and every time it was always welcoming, and to just have between the president, all the students here, and everybody in between that made this happen. It's no wonder we're here talking about Title IX, because this is a great example of what it can do when everybody's working together and really understanding the importance of making it happen. There's a lot of work to be done. But events and moments like this are great reminders of how far we've come in the pursuit of equality. Growing up, I would have never seen a stage that we're about to see full of females who are not just in the sports industry, but successful career leaders in the sports industry. So we've come a long way. And I'm wondering what new next will happen from the students in this room as we look to the future. So thank you to the community doers. I think we've rattled them off several times, which is important already tonight, so I won't go down the entire list, but the Maine Sports Commission, as mentioned, and Sheila Brennan-Nee, who does a ton of great work behind the scenes to bring events like this to life. Deb Smith, as we're talking about people that paved the way, somebody that I'm sure most of us in this room may not know her name, but are the beneficiaries of the great work she's done with the Maine Sports Commission, and everybody at UNE. From the moment we just brought it up as a thought, like a whole team of people went to work to make this happen, and it was really, really neat to see. So appreciate everybody's work and energy that went into tonight. So in 1998, I was a freshman in college. Katie, at least, can you believe that? I mean, I look too young for that, right? Right. Okay. Well, they're nodding their head for anybody that's on the live stream, clearly. In February, in 1998, I was packed into my dorm room with a bunch of my hockey teammates, and we were getting ready to watch the Olympic Games. It was the first time that women's hockey had ever been played in an Olympic Games. And while I was getting my face paint on and getting ready to watch with my teammates, Angela Ruggiero was lacing up her skates to make history with that team. In 1998, her team became the first team to ever win a medal, in particular a gold medal for Team USA in women's ice hockey. History was made. Now our paths crossed again a decade later when, after working in the NHL, I joined USA Hockey to lead the women's national team and Olympic team in 2010. Angela was still competing. She was now a 4-time Olympian, and she was approaching the end of her playing career. As she made the decision to retire, I wanted to give her the space and time to share some of her insights and experiences with her teammates before she moved on to many other endeavors. So in December 28th, 2011, in Blaine, Minnesota, I believe it was, she shared many golden nuggets with the team, but I wanted to highlight one excerpt from that talk she gave that references some comments about equality. This is her quote: "The chance to wear a jersey, the words United States of America across it is something I'm sure all of you dreamed of when you were children. I know I did. I remember pretending to be a member of the Los Angeles Kings and wearing my hockey gear to school on career day in the 2nd grade. I remember carrying a hockey card of the 1980 Olympic team in my wallet and then taping a Wheaties box with the Olympic rings to my wall the summer before I tried out for Team USA." That's the end of the quote. Now let me point out that the Los Angeles Kings is a men's team in the NHL, for those of you that don't know. In the 1980 team, the hockey card she was holding was also a men's team. So yes, to see her, to be her mentality, it's powerful and necessary. But there are a few who had to imagine it. There are a few who then had to create it before it existed. And Angela is one of those few people. So now that she did that, now there's a team of female Olympic gold medalists in the sport of ice hockey who can inspire young players. Now you can tape a Wheaties box of female Olympians to your wall if you want to. And now there's a women's professional hockey league that you can aspire to. When trailblazers like Angela show up, change happens, and it creates new pathways for generations to come. As we heard, we've got great women's programs, and especially in ice hockey here at UNE. In 2018, our paths crossed again. Maybe we'll have time during the panel to share that story a little bit further, but it was an awesome full circle moment for me, our team, and it was really special to see Angela as part of that, but perhaps we'll get into that a little bit. I hope the stories and lessons shared tonight inspire and motivate you to imagine and create limitless futures for yourselves. Whether you see her right now or not, you should look to Angela and her story to realize that whatever it is you want to do, you can do it. If you can imagine it, you can be it. So with that, let me tell you a little bit more about Angela, and then I'll introduce her. I'm the final speed bump to this featured speaker here tonight. So Angela Ruggiero is a global sports leader, a visionary CEO in the world of sports. She's the CEO and co-founder of the Sports Innovation Lab, a global market research firm in sport. She's a 4-time Olympian, just take that in, 4-time Olympian, gold medalist in ice hockey, and a member of the 2015 Hockey Hall of Fame, only the 4th woman to ever be inducted. Angela is the former president and board member of the Women's Sports Foundation. She's been named to Forbes' top 25 most powerful women in sport. She's a graduate of Harvard Business School, Harvard College, and the University of Minnesota. She's also an author in her spare time. Her book, Breaking the Ice, shares stories of her journey as an Olympian, but also highlights some of the adversity she had in regards to inequality along her way. Angela is consistently and actively working to close the gap in equality in sport with the same fierce grit and determination she brought to the game of ice hockey. So with that, I'll welcome our featured speaker, Angela Ruggiero.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hi. We're awake? All right. Reagan, you're the best. Reagan Carey was my general manager for 1 year, my last year, as you mentioned, so you did hear my exit speech, but you've done so much for not only Maine, but our program, and helped to, she brought home the 2nd gold medal ever. It was in 2018. Give it up for Reagan Carey as the general manager of that team. So just want to say thank you to Reagan for reaching out. The Maine Sports Commission, UNE, anyone that had a part, all the students that I've met so far that have taken the time to come here tonight and organize this event, listen to me pontificate a little bit around Title IX and my journey. This is an event that I have to be at, as is sort of who I am, as you heard. And you know, you mentioned the Wheaties box. I was so lucky. Did anyone get to see my gold medal backstage? The thing is like, you know, I have 4. I love them all, but the gold kind of does it. And, you know, for those that watch the Olympics or are watching the Paralympics, there's nothing like it in sport. You just, I mean, when the flag is being raised and, you know, back in '98, I was the youngest player. We spontaneously held hands, and you get to hear your anthem, and you're literally at the top of the world in your sport. There is nothing like it. Even pro sports, it's, to me, everything. So what Reagan was referencing is I got to actually give the medals in 2018 because I was on the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and it was just such a touching moment to have women's hockey have another gold medal. So, you guys Olympic fans? Yeah? All right. All right, keep it up. Keep watching the Paras too. They're on right now. There we go, in the back. So yeah, I've had this amazing hockey career. It's just completely changed my life. And when I was thinking about what to say, you know, I want to relate some of my experiences of taking my experience as an athlete and translating them into affecting positive change. As I look out into this group, you're all students. You all have this amazing opportunity, whatever you do next in life. And I was able to, again, take my experiences, my journey, and try to give back, try to affect positive change. So I wanted to share my journey along the way and hopefully pull out some nuggets that as an Olympian, as a business person now, that really, I think, hopefully you'll be able to walk away from tonight with, oh, there's something I could do to help others. Here's something I can do to help Title IX or anything in life. So as you heard, I started playing hockey when I was 7. I grew up in Southern California. I think there's my Cali guy over there. Got another Cali player. All right, I like it. It was cold. No cold. It was sunny. There was no hockey. My dad grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. So he signed up my brother, who was 6. My brother came home in his gear, and I was like, that looks cool. And he said, well, I don't know about my daughter playing, but he went back to the rink, and they were desperate for bodies. So they said, well, if you sign up your 2 other daughters, we'll give you a family discount. So that's kind of how I fell into hockey. Three kids for the price of 2. So I literally fell into the sport. But from the moment I started skating, I just fell in love with it. It was the perfect sport for me. Speed, finesse, teamwork, it had it all. It was again, I'm so blessed to have found it. And, I say it was my first love. Reagan mentioned I did show up to career day with my gear on, and everyone thought, what the hell are you wearing? What is hockey? They didn't even know what that was. But and they said, who do you want to be? And I said, I don't know, a hockey player. And they go, who do you want to be? And Bobby Orr, I just sort of made up a name. I didn't have a person that I looked up to. Women's hockey was not in the Olympics. It was barely in the collegiate system at the time. I didn't even know about it because I'm, a little kid. But I just knew I wanted to play hockey. I just loved hockey. And it was a lot of rainbows and butterflies the first 2 years. I got my juice pack after games and got to play with my brother and sister and have lots of fun rides in the car with my parents. When I was 9, I had a fundamental moment where I tried out for an all-star team. My brother made the team. He got to go to Canada, and I got left off the roster. And I was probably the 3rd or 4th best player on the ice. I was pretty good at the time. I wasn't the best, but I was good enough to make the team, and I got left off. And I'm a little 9-year-old girl trying to understand why. And my father basically said, it's because you're a girl, and you have a ponytail, and that's embarrassing for the coaches. So they left you off the roster. And that was a lot to swallow. That was really hard for me as a little kid to say, well, that's not fair. And my dad gave me this, he said, basically, Angela, you can decide to quit and kind of give in, or you could, push harder and be the best player next year. And that's the only way that you're gonna be able to keep playing. The only way you're gonna make the team is to be the best player on the ice. So that's what I decided to do. And that is totally unfair, by the way, for a 9-year-old. You have to be the best player. But fortunately, I had a phenomenal support system around me. And all this energy when, we've all faced discrimination in some way, shape, or form, bias, unfairness. For me, it was, okay, there's a formula. You give in and give up, or you go, and you go as hard as you can. And I remember every time I stepped on the ice at that point, it was about first on the ice, last off the ice. I had something to prove. I had a chip on my shoulder. That was a good chip, though, to have. Because guess what? That went back into me, trying to get better each and every day. So fast forward, I made the national team. I was 15 years old. I was in the locker room with my teammates getting their autograph because I didn't even know women's hockey existed, and I finally got a tryout, and I got my first pack of women's hockey cards, and I'm going around the room getting their locker, their signatures, and I was one of them. It was pretty amazing for me. And again, that kind of reckoning of you can't change everyone, but you can change yourself. You can figure out how to respond to those biases, to those moments in your life when something isn't fair. Because now I realize, I just embrace it. I just expect it. And I learned that as a young person. So fast forward a few years, I'm on the national team. I'm having a blast playing, for Team USA. We get a gold medal. Yeah, I come home. We're on the Wheaties box. By the way, I got left off. There was no NIL, so all the college kids got left off. Side story. So we have the Wheaties box. I'm not on there. There's 5 of us. But, David Letterman, and there was this massive interest in women's hockey. And you see this a lot with Olympic sports, Paralympic sports. You win a medal, and the world just embraces you and wants to learn. And that was the first time women's hockey was in the Olympics. And yet we were set up, we didn't have the structures in place to lean in. USA Hockey, our governing body, and no one, to be honest, was expecting the amount of interest that the world had to touch, to feel, to be a part of USA women's hockey. So the next time around, if you've been following USA women's soccer, we stood up and said, hey, collectively, we need more. We need to have a marketing budget. We need to have a whole team ready to activate when we win a gold medal, because of course we expected to win another one. But it took, you didn't hear about it, there was no social media at the time, but then I learned about you can affect positive change by coming together as a group. There's a reason the MLB isn't playing, it's collective bargaining. We sort of had that on the side, but it wasn't just Angela advocating for myself, it was us advocating for, if we simply put more investment behind our sport, and recognizing that there was a big missed opportunity. So I learned a lot from my teammates, which we learned a lot from our sisters on the soccer team and the basketball team, and just started to understand why are these discrepancies in investment and support. And again, I remember just being told, just be happy you get a spot, be happy you get to play. And thinking, there's participation is one thing, but it's all the other areas, which is what Title IX is also about. It's not just participation, it's about funding and resources, support staff, and when you get to train, the time of your practice slot, the equipment that you're using, the rule differences. I'm going, whoa, there's a lot more here that we should be thinking about and advocating for. So I had that experience, and I'm like, okay, we moved the needle a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And along the way, I'm learning, I can make a difference, whether as an individual or as a team. And it gave me a little bit of a, opportunity to kind of understand what's that formula for change. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to this. I remember coming back from Nagano with a gold medal, thinking, all right, I'm fearless now. You take a little bit of time off. I came back, I needed to train. And the rink, my local rink in Michigan now, my family's living in Michigan, said, you can't play. It was a pickup game. I was like, oh, what do you mean? Is the ice rented out to someone else? Is there, is the Zamboni broken? Why can't I skate? And the person behind the desk said, this is a 98. I just have a gold medal around my neck. Shift hockey's for men only. I'm like, what? Is this a publicly funded arena? Yes. So my taxpayers are paying for this, but I don't have access to this? It was a Title IX basically type of situation. I said, how do I approach this one? This isn't about me playing in that day. That didn't matter. It was the broader implications of if a university, if a private organization is saying no just on the basis of gender, and I knew that was wrong. So you can affect change in a variety of ways. In this case, I could have sued. I probably should have, because I'd be rich right now, and that'd be great. I had some money in my bank, but I didn't really care. I was like, oh, how's this gonna how can I really affect this situation? Anyone seen Investigative Reporters? You guys heard of this on the news? All right, maybe I'm dating myself. I went in with a fanny pack with an undercover camera. I walked into the rink, and I was doing one of these with the pen that they had. I was like, can I play hockey? And sort of off angle, and the person behind the desk, the same person's like, no, it's for women, it's for men only. I was like, can you say that again? Louder? And I got them basically on tape saying that they were discriminating just based on gender. I had my money, I had all the reasons. That aired globally or nationally, and they changed the rules. I was like, wow. So you can make a difference. There's not one size fits all. Obviously, having that personal journey, getting called names, getting cut from teams, being told I couldn't play, affected my person. And so the next phase of my life was all about, how do I make it better for others? We're here at a university. Title IX, as we talked about, is about educational access. Did you know that 95% of C-suite women played sports? 95%. And it's probably 100% for men, or very close to. Men have historically been given access to sport. And to me, it's awesome. It's the physical piece of it. You get to have fun, but you learn so many intangibles that you take to the business world, that you take to life. Working in a team, pushing through to results, all these things that are so hard to come by in the workforce. When an athlete applies to a job at my company now, I perk up. I'm like, oh, you've been taught when you fall, you get up. Or, hey, I'm on time to something. Wow, that's a crazy concept. Your coach is on you. There are these intangibles that we're all learning as student athletes that I hope you recognize absolutely will affect your future employment, how you work with others. And again, that's what Title IX is all about. It's using sport to learn about yourself and working with others and applying that. Sport is that means to that piece of your education. So I've been obviously a big fan of just giving boys and girls equal opportunity to play, trying to give more, again, opportunity to those that have been told no. And when I thought about it, I said, okay, what's that formula? Because there's a formula for change that I believe when I was reflecting, like, it starts with inequality perception. We may go through our lives and not really understand the other and just keep going on and on. My brother, who played hockey, may not have understood what I had to face day in and day out being a female hockey player until maybe he sat next to me in the locker room or saw me got cut. And slowly, he was my biggest champion, my brother, because he got it. He saw it. And he always wanted the same access he got. So that, to me, is the first point I want to make tonight is, do you see it? Do you see the inequality? It's so easy to just keep moving and not think about the other. And that could be gender, that could be race, that could be sexual orientation, that could be anything. But really, do we understand, can you put yourself in the shoes of someone that doesn't get the same opportunities as you? It's really hard. It's having a little bit of the EQ up. Once you perceive it, it's like, how do I diagnose what to do about it? That's really hard too. And I'm speaking to all the student athletes out here who are going to see it today or in their next job. There's a context, there's a root. If we isolate Title IX, obviously we can look at different reasons, but do you understand why the inequality exists? Sometimes it's just because no one's ever looked at it. Can you devise then a solution or a plan based on that context? So if you see it and you're fired up to do something about it, go investigate what's going on and then figure out what a plan is. And then obviously execution is the thing that I've always focused on. Go do something. It's so easy to just chirp into Twitter and raise your hand and be like, that's horrible, and then just go on your daily life. That's good, you're raising awareness. But I, again, implore you to do more. What else can you do? And again, I've just realized that formula, for me at least, was, well, I see inequalities all around me. And I can't do everything, but can I be selective in how I affect change? And it could be something as small as just be yourself. Be that shining light. One of my biggest heroes in life is Billie Jean King. I got to know her when I was the president of the Women's Sports Foundation. She always used to say, if you can see it, you can be it. I think, Reagan, you mentioned that. I remember in 2005, I'm in the middle of my hockey career, and my brother, again, one of my greatest advocates, was like, hey, Ange, you should come and skate with my team. He's playing in the Central Hockey League. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, a couple of our D are hurt. You should just come and skate with us over Christmas. Oh, okay, that'd be fun. Let me go practice. I'll get to watch you. He usually played on Christmas Day. So I go out there, brought my gear, and then the coach is like, you should skate for us. actually play for us in game. Like, what do you mean? He's like, no, you're good. You should play. And again, it turned into like, oh, cool, I haven't played with my brother since we were kids, to like a media circus. The whole world was like, oh, can women play hockey? And, I had to change my half shield, but other than that, the blue line didn't move. The rules were pretty much the same. And I said, yeah, of course I'm going to do this. It turned into me having fun into another, like, you, Angela, have the opportunity, by just being you, to positively affect change. When you look in that stands, there's going to be little girls and little boys, by the way. I see a lot of men out here, my Manbassadors, right? Manbassador, you like that? All the men. Boys need to see women killing it on the ice, because we can. And little girls need to see women too. So I was like, okay, here's an opportunity to just do what I do, which is play hockey. I'm not trying to change the world, I'm just being me. But by being me, again, hopefully setting a positive example. And there's a lot of women that came after me then that put their hand up to play pro, and they're going to continue to do so. So I learned a lot of this, again, having put my hand up. I spent many years on the, as I mentioned, the Women's Sports Foundation, really trying to understand the nuances of Title IX, learning from others around me, surrounding myself with good people. Again, if you want to tackle a problem, whether it's gender equality or anything else, just surround yourself with good people that care about it as passionately as you do. They're going to come up with interesting ways to tackle that, to support that. And some of the things I learned, again, I'm trying to give you little nuggets of stuff that when I perceived inequality, it's, could you befriend executives that have the power to change things and really understand what they're trying to achieve? I do that all the time in my capacity now. Oh, you have a daughter that plays sport? Oh, let me talk about all the inequalities in women's sports. Why you should do more. As I mentioned before, I try to do my best to help and be visible for boys and girls. So if I do Girl Scouts, I try to do Boy Scouts. Be visible for all genders, and that goes both ways. Stop and say hello to people. That's something I'm big on. If I met so many amazing students tonight, like I knew that, and I'm sure you have little kids that come up to you after games, like just meeting them, looking them in the eye, saying, thank you for coming to my game. That makes such a difference. But pausing and really reflecting on, you are their role model. They're looking up to you. What are you going to say? How are you going to inspire them? Honestly, they probably don't even understand the rules or what your sport is all about. They're just psyched to meet you and spend 2 seconds to look them in the eye. One example, I didn't even know, and I did this. Someone said, oh, I talked to this young girl after I spoke at her school. She just lost her father. She plays hockey. Okay. Hey, here's my medal. Let's talk. I said I don't even remember what I said. Years later, I'm like, why does that player keep looking at me funny? So awkward. And then she makes the Olympic team, and I'm like, man, there she is again. Hey, how's it going? We ended up being teammates. She played in 2 Olympics. Caitlin Cahill's from Maine. I spoke to her apparently when she was like 10 and gave her some inspiration. So do what you can to take the time. You never know the kind of impact that it's going to have on those young kids. So a couple more examples. I know we have a panel coming up, but so I was playing hockey for forever, 16 years, played more than any other man or woman in a Team USA jersey, which I'm very proud of because that was hard. And when I retired, I was lucky enough to be on the International Olympic Committee. It's like the governing body of Olympic sport. And so I was one of 15 athletes that got to represent all the athletes globally. And through that time, I remember I was maybe 6 years in, and I cared obviously about women athletes, but I cared about a lot of athlete issues. And there was this one moment, I remember just going, okay, I got to do something. 6 years in, I'm on the bus to Pyeongchang in Korea, because I'm on the project management group called a coordination commission. And I said, well, why are the women in the small rink again? Minus like the gold medal game, all the games are in the little rink, and the men get the big rink. And we see that a lot in sports. So I just asked the question, I'm like, isn't the Olympics about like values and equality, and like, shouldn't we stand for like equal? And we're moving that way slowly with participation, but all these other little things, I'm like, that's not equal, and I see it. And I asked our sports director, and he said, oh, well, the Ice Hockey Federation told us that the ice needed a day to breathe. Any hockey players? Is that true? No. I was like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing in hockey. You just, the Zamboni cleans it up, you're ready to go, unless you're painting lines. So I caught him. I was like, wait a second. That's totally fabricated. That's not a thing in hockey. And the sports director said, oh, okay, well, let's try to find out why. Turns out they just didn't want to orchestrate moving all the rooms, and it was kind of a pain in the butt. And it had always been done that way. The women play in the small arena and get one game, so they don't have to move locker rooms. It's like an inconvenience and like a ticket thing. So I just asked the question, why? How powerful is the word why? You don't have to do anything or say anything, it just opens up the conversation. I said, why? And what I got back was obviously validation that we were just good people in the organization, just had never questioned the status quo. So I said, what if we asked why across all of sports, all of Olympic sports, and had to figure out a way again to maneuver. In some organizations it's more straightforward. In this one I had to be a little more political. But end of the day, we initiated the IOC, a gender equality review project, where we asked why across every sport, every country. And that was, why are the women not just having equal participation, which is usually what Title IX is focused on, but funding and practice time and visibility and prime time. I just covered the Olympics on NBC. Why couldn't the women's hockey game be the final game heading into closing ceremonies than the men? We got the second most ratings of any hockey game over the last 3 years since 2019. It was the women's hockey game recently, if you watched it. I'm like, you just give them a better slot to get watched. It's cyclical. So ask the question why. I just want to keep repeating that. That to me was everything. And through that gender equality report, positive things happen. You have that good, hard data. Again, you can affect change with heart and emotion, or you can go about it with brains and data and less emotion. And there's no right or wrong answer. If you care passionately about something, sometimes it's about, can you just understand? Let me help you understand. And sometimes it's like, let me just give you the data on what's going on, and that'll convince you. So I've seen a lot of different approaches to affecting change in my life, and especially on Title IX. One example, I'll just tell you recently, my company, Sports Innovation Lab, we're a market research company, we're big data nerds, and I've been servicing like the NFL and the NHL and FIFA and all these big global brands around sports. And I said, why aren't people investing in women's sports, the professional level? There's like a big market opportunity here. What if they just need the data? Well, we can convince them because no one's ever looked at it. So we did this massive study, and turns out women's sports is a massive untapped market. Yeah, of course you expect me to say that, but our data could show that. And when I present that to executives, they go, maybe we should be investing more. And you see the WNBA just raised $75 million. You see a lot of federations and brands now saying we should be doing more, we should be investing more. And so my approach to change in this, it's a different way, you can the same problem, tackle it a different way, was data, was insights, was surveys. Again, is it just your opinion or is it a lot of opinions? Is it just, sample size of 1 or sample size of 1 million? And through the FAM project is what we called it. We were able to prove definitively there's a big, big market for women's sports. But unfortunately, we've lifted and shifted the men's model, sports model. If I say they shrink it and pink it, and then you underfund it, and you're like, why isn't it working? Well, it's a different audience. They want different things. They want to be, consumers are fickle. They want new things. So women's sports, historically underfunded because they've been misunderstood. So let's just bring data to the market. So I guess I raise all of this and want to have a conversation. I was affected. I was discriminated upon. It hurt me as a child. And I was like, God, that's not fair. Everyone should have the opportunity to play and not feel this way. But in my adult life now, my post-hockey career, it's like you can affect change in a ton of different ways. And there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So I want every student in here, you got this beautiful, precious life in front of you. And you could do anything when you graduate. That's so exciting. Do something you love. Find something that you have a passion for. You're going to work harder. Believe me, when I played sports, it sucked to get up that early and not get to hang out with my friends on Halloween and, don't have the sleepovers and, all the different weddings I missed in my adult life and important holidays. But I loved it. So it was easy. And when it stopped being easy, I stopped. Find something in work that you love to do, that you're going to work for free, that you would do on the weekends. You're not checking in and checking out. And if it has to do with affecting change, there's so many ways you can affect positive change. I just want to, again, push you to think outside the box. Do something you love and find something, one of my favorite quotes, be the change you wish to see in the world. Gandhi, this quote. Do something that makes a difference. You're gonna feel better about how you spend that one precious life you all have. And if it has to do with gender equality and Title IX, you got a friend here. I know you got a lot of friends in the audience. That doesn't have to be it for anyone, but for me, again, that was my personal experience. And I would ask, have you had that personal experience? What can you do for the next generation? To me, that's really what it's all about. The next generation, figuring out, again, what are the things that can lean into change, positive change. To, again, the men out there, thank you for being here tonight. Hopefully your coaches weren't making you be here. You're here because you want to help your sisters and your girlfriends, and you want to be here for your mothers, the people that didn't have this opportunity. So thank you to the men in this room. You guys have no idea how much power you have. When I'm in the room with all men, and they go, Angela, what about the women's strategy? I'm like, oh man. When a guy speaks up on your behalf, I just feel like $1 million. And afterwards I go, thank you for speaking up. Because you expect it to come from me. And I'm always the only woman in the room for some reason. It's getting better. But when guys speak up, ladies, right? You're like, thank you. You see me, you hear me, and you're going to use your voice, uniquely your voice. It's going to get listened to very differently than if a woman's going, wait, why is our practice time after the guys every year? The guy said the same thing, oh my God. You got new best friends everywhere. So I just, again, want to respect all the men in the room. I have 2 sons. I want to raise them to see everyone as equals, give everyone equal opportunity. My brother, as I mentioned, is still one of my best friends. He's the one that said, Angela, you should come skate for us. He got me that opportunity. He always like, hey guys, my sister's here. Can she skate with us? Summer skate. Come on, your sister. Man. No, she's pretty good. I'll vouch for you. Okay, fine, bring her out. Oh, wow, she's pretty good. My father, who said, Ange, don't quit. Prove him wrong. Go out there. Go make a difference. Here's some inspirational quotes. He's the one that cut out that Wheaties box and mailed it to me. He was always doing things to encourage me. Women, we're going to keep fighting the good fight, but I'm just reaching out to all the guys in the room. You guys are going to make a huge difference. And I don't think you get talked to enough and recognize the strength that you have. So I'll wrap because I know I can go on and on and on. I could talk hockey too. That's fun. But I just wanted to, again, share some of my personal experiences of affecting change. It's not one size fits all. It starts with asking why. It starts with recognizing there's unfairness in the world, and that's okay. And then coming up with, what's the solution? How do we get better? And that is what I hope you leave from, that you can all affect positive change. Thank you.
Hello. So we're going to move on to the panel portion. I'll introduce everyone that we haven't seen yet on the stage tonight. I'll go first. My name is Emma Tiedemann. I'm the Director of Broadcasting and the play-by-play voice of the Portland Sea Dogs, right down the road. And I also had the pleasure of broadcasting a couple of UNE women's basketball and women's hockey games this season. So thank you for having me for those. So I will start with Abby Thelin, the Director of Events for the New England Patriots. And then, of course, Heather Davis, the Director of Athletics here at UNE. And I think with that, we're just going to open the floor if anyone has any questions for our panelists. I see a couple hands.
Hi, everyone. My name is Danny. I am the Vice President of the Female Athlete Alliance, and my first question is actually for Heather Davis. My question for you is, as you have progressed through your professional growth and roles as a coach and now our athletic director, how do you feel like we can better foster more opportunities for women, both athletically, in leadership roles and outside of athletics?
Thank you. Thank you for calling on me first. I think what's really important is that as I've moved through my career in the different professions I've held, I've had tremendous mentors, and I'm incredibly grateful for those mentors. You know, some of you I shared the story with earlier. I never, aside from my mother, my very first soccer coach, I did not have another female coach until I entered college. And I entered college knowing I loved sports and I wanted a career in it, but I had no idea. I started as an athletic training major, quickly changed over to exercise science, but still really didn't know. And over my college journey, my coach became my biggest mentor and biggest advocate. And I really thought for the first time ever, maybe I could be a coach. And that's how I came here to UNE. I coached college soccer for 17 years and then transitioned to administration. And there I had tremendous mentors in administration. I mean, some of you might remember Joan Howard. You know, when I first came here as a soccer coach, there was a professional development opportunity for senior women administrator positions. And she said, hey, Heather, why don't you come with me? And open that door for me. And so now, as I've evolved and I'm in my career, it's about constantly being thankful and grateful for those that helped you along your journey, but also looking beside you and who's coming in the next generation to continue to champion for others and help create those pathways. So it's really been the mentors and then me remembering that important role that I can help others.
Anybody else? Let's keep this going.
I do have another couple follow-up questions with our other panelists, but feel free if anybody else has questions to take the floor. My first question is for Angela, and I know you mentioned our Manbassadors in the room. I love that term. And your brother's support throughout your career. Can you just talk about how you feel like our male allies can best support women in athletics, whether they are the athletes or whether they are the coaches, or how they can further progress their careers? How can our male athletes and allies help us?
Thank you. Go to games, support your, sisterhood out there. They come to your games, I imagine. Go to theirs. Speak up when you see something that's not equal. Your staff will listen and probably be very appreciative. They may not know that there's something different. If you really care, put your neck on the line. And you could do that discreetly or overtly, but I remember, like I mentioned my brother, like, wow, Bill, thanks for giving me a solid and getting me into that skate. That was amazing. And I couldn't have gotten into that skate without your support, your advocacy. So I would just say show up. You're going to know in your heart what to do if you really care. And, you may or may not have daughters one day. And if you do, you're going to look back and go, man, I should be doing more. I keep coming back to the daughter thing. That is when I see most men wake up and go, my son gets this and my daughter gets this. That doesn't make any sense. So your question's a great one. I would just say show up to games and be like, hey, great game. Like something as small as that, I think makes such a big difference. Right? I'll ask the student athletes. Any other suggestions? Putting you on the spot? That's a hard one. Oh, we got a suggestion from our chair.
We especially appreciate when you share our games on social media. That is a big help.
Nice. Tweet out.
Yes, my name is Greg Glynn. I'm founder and CEO of Pliable. I'm also an athlete brand advisor. I wanted to ask a question first. I want to start, Angela, thank you, and thank you to everyone for putting this on. I was up at the event with Casey Bellamy. It was absolutely fantastic. So everyone in this room is blessed to hear from you. I also wanted to let you know that I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I've seen the inequality in sports growing up now with her as my daughter. And it's actually why I started Mission E50, which is that my company will represent more than 50% female athletes. I'm a proud girl dad, and now I guess I'm going to call myself an ambassador as well. You mentioned that 5 athletes didn't make that Wheaties box, and I thought that was important in the sense that the college athlete landscape is changing rapidly. As an athlete brand advisor, I work with high school and college athletes to build their brand. My question is how, and this would start with you, Angela, and then I'd love to hear the panel as well, but how you think that female athletes can use either NIL or also the power of their voice to grow their athlete brand and then in that way grow women's sports.
Yeah, thank you. My company did a Google search for the most popular NCAA basketball players. And the algorithm assumes you want to find men. So the top 10 are all men. We then compared that to social media followers, and over half were women by following. So there's all kinds of inequalities, but it speaks to the NIL, name, image, likeness. My recommendation to all athletes is be your authentic self. Brands love who you are, your flaws and all, because that's where, sports landscape is headed. And I would just, again, any athlete looking to take advantage of MIL, do that. Be yourself. Consumers want, the research we do, we call them fluid fans, just want more values. They want to understand the athlete before, during, and after event, not just that sick slap shot that you had. So be yourself is my piece of advice. And you're probably dealing with it every single day now.
So I would follow up on that, and that's being your authentic self and really understanding yourself and putting that best foot forward every day. We talk a lot about social media and making sure that your social reflects you in the way that you hope it does and intends you. And when I was developing a professional brand. You know, we learn about that. When you're coming in as a student athlete, you learn about that. And so when you're out there and you're putting yourself forward, make sure that you're representing your best, genuine, authentic self.
Question about the opportunities that are expanding for women in broadcasting these days. For many years, the typical role for a woman was just like the sideline reporter role, and not to diminish that, but it's not the be-all and end-all as far as broadcasting. And I know Emma and some of the other women in the panel who perhaps have some broadcasting experience might speak to those strides that have been made in recent years, where we see more and more color commentators and also play-by-play voices that are female voices, and how important that is as an example for young women who might be enjoying the games that are being broadcast. So any insight into that, and maybe some of our athletes will aspire to careers in those domains. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll start, and then I guess y'all could talk about the hockey side of things, since I don't have that much experience. But I'll say with the baseball side of things, you know, it's definitely changing. I say that, but the numbers are still low. This upcoming minor league baseball season, I'll be one of 3 female broadcasters in a landscape of 120 minor league teams. So, but to say that I started in this industry, there was 2 of us. There were 4 last year, now there's 3. So the numbers are trending in the right direction, I guess you could say. But I think that people are being more open to the fact that they might turn on the radio or they might turn on their television and hear a female voice in a male-dominated position that they've heard for decades. They've only heard men on the radio, or they've only heard men on the call. People are more open to it now, and I think that social media can be a dark and terrible place sometimes, but it's also a really positive place. You know, there's a lot of champions, Manbassadors, if you want to call them too, that are really championing the female broadcasters that are coming up, not only in baseball, but you see it with college football these days, NFL with Beth Mowens, and then in the NBA with Doris Burke. So I think from a student athlete's perspective of, you have the inside scoop on what's going on and what's going on in the minds of the athlete, if they're on the mound, if they're on the ice. If you can speak well and you have that passion that you want to continue, then the broadcast booth is definitely an option no matter your gender at this point. You know, I think that it's extra special to turn on a women's game and hear a woman's voice as well. So I'd say that it's definitely not as intimidating and not as kind of guarded as it once was, especially being up in the booth. It's definitely, that doors is kind of starting to open a little bit more. And if that's where your passion is, you know, bust that door wide open, because we're ready for you.
Is this thing on? Just check. Angela, you just came off of covering the Olympics. What was that like for you? Just the experience. I mean, it was great to see you there, and somebody that knows the game so well. And obviously, AJ does a great job as well. But to have you there, somebody that's been through it, is pretty important for the game. But how was it?
It was great. So fun. Talk about hockey for, like, that's cool. I just get to analyze plays and promote women's hockey in the Olympics. And last night I was in Bristol at ESPN's headquarters. The first time ever that the women's NCAA bracket unveil was, like, they actually had a dedicated half-hour show to that. So I got to cover that. So there's slowly but surely, I think the networks are saying we should be doing more to cover more women's sports. But then to your question, why is it that, why do we assume that men can talk about men's sports and women can't, and women are fans? And then on the other side, why is it that we've historically had men covering women's games? Again, I'm like, just put the best person in the job, like, flat out, like men's or women's sports. So it was a lot of fun, to answer your question. I got to talk about hockey, and I get paid to do that. I mean, that's cool.
Oh, we've got a question over here.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm a senior on the women's rugby team, and I was wondering how athletes and non-athletes can be better advocates for more intersectional issues around sports, like race and gender equality, especially with the new legislation around youth trans athletes.
I'll start us off. So I mean, I have to share, one of the things that truly inspires me the most is when we see student athletes pulling together to talk about really critically important and complex topics and not being shy about it. You know, I think it's really cool, and it's truly an inspiration for me. And, you know, this year we've seen the creation of 2 really awesome student clubs with the Storming to Change and the Female Athlete Alliance. And when conversations start, these groups, you see people pulling in and getting really engaged. And sometimes it's just about the first person who's brave enough to stand up and start a conversation and do it in a way that invites others to join in. And for me, I've seen those 2 examples on our very campus with people that are out here in this room. And when you see others do it, it's really inspiring and encouraging to folks like myself who think the next generation is going to make a huge difference. And we appreciate it. So collaboration and just starting.
Just to add what Angela touched on as well, just being able to have the conversation, making sure that there's a space for that, and a lot of those conversations happen in locker rooms and people you are, you know, trusting with different ideas and thoughts, but really being available to understanding others. We're not all going to get it right. We don't understand what it's like to be anyone else, but we can try and we can be open-minded and listen and learn. So I think sometimes in those discussions, people think they have to have the answer or there's a right side and a wrong side. And the reality is it's really important to have the discussion and keep having the discussion and keep learning. And you don't have to walk away that first time knowing everything or getting it all right, but just hearing and listening to somebody does a lot for that one person. And so if you can do that and do that consistently, and then maybe be open-minded to what can we do as a collective group or maybe a collective community or college, that can go a long way. So just showing up, but not needing to have the answer necessarily, but just showing up for people as you'd want to have them show up for you when you're trying to figure things out, I think is a really important point.
Another question over here.
Hello, my name is Megan Smith. I am a varsity athlete here. I'm also a part of Female Athlete Alliance. I guess this is mostly for Angela, but I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on, you kind of talked about how I guess it's not tough. I think it's tough to find a balance between kind of putting yourself in other people's shoes, which comes down to being empathetic, and then, you know, supporting your claims and everything with data. And so I was just wondering if you could kind of give some advice for women on how to find a good balance. Just because, I don't know, it can be hard when, as a woman, if you're too assertive, you're seen as bossy and things like that. So
double standard. Yeah. What is it? You can be respected and liked as a male leader. It's a Harvard study. But you can't be respected or liked. You could either be liked or respected if you're a woman, which is hard. So how do you get that balance and be both respected and liked, like the men? Again, Harvard study, so they know what they're talking about, I guess. No, I mean, it's back to the IQ, EQ. You know, some people hear with emotion and others hear with data, and so that's always been my approach. Like, I don't have an approach. I'm like, who is this person? Who is this organization? How deep is the problem? Is it just a conversation, or is there there's something more? But I guess my best piece of advice is expect it to be hard. That's just like the unfortunate truth. Again, I learned at 9. Like, Angela, if you want to keep playing, you're going to get called names. You're going to get cut from teams. You're going to be the only woman in the room. Like, oh, but I love it, Dad. Like, I love it. Okay, like, expect it to be hard, and you can go at your own pace. You don't have to change the world overnight. Sometimes I think we all want to just like have change tomorrow. I'm like, no, play the long game. Like, what can you do today with the people around you? But the fact that you're even asking the question, it's like you're already doing the right things. Like, you're asking the question, which is I a lot of respect for.
I don't know if mine's on. I mean, wasn't a student athlete, so I can't speak to that, but I can certainly speak to just being a female in a very male-dominated industry, in football specifically. And it's a really, really hard balance. And when you started talking, I looked at Heather, and I was like, this is where this is going. I know she's about to say, how do you come off as not seeming like a bitch? And I'm 42 years old and I still have trouble with that balance, not because I'm coming off that way, but there's that perception. And I think for me, the biggest thing was not feeling like I needed to overcompensate just to prove a point and just to prove that I was, I knew what I was talking about and I knew I belonged there, right? Like there's that instinct to be like, I know what I'm talking about. I know I belong here for a reason. And I asked a lot of questions when I didn't know things too. So I was willing to raise my hand when I didn't know something. And I think, showing a little bit of vulnerability, at least I found that for me was helpful because they didn't think you were just kind of coming through and charging in. But there is no solution. And it's just, I hate to say that because I wish I could say like, oh, here is this magical thing that you can do.
Just wear that ring in any conversation. Does anyone see that in the back of the room? Just wear that ring.
Or the medal around your neck, right?
That's cool.
I can't even see anymore.
Over here.
The shine.
Yes,
He has more rings.
I do. I have 3.
Wear all 3.
They're too heavy. So I don't know if that helped or not, but just knowing that there's not a magic solution to it.
I think just on that point, though, you also need to find the allies within the room. There are people that, as Angela was saying in her talking, a lot of times you have to lean on men that are willing to, say something and stand up for you or bring you into that meeting. And that doesn't always happen, but when it does, you have to also recognize what an opportunity that is and to thank them, as we've all set up here. They don't have to do that. They should do it. Doesn't mean they have to, right? And I think probably all of us at different times have had those men that at some point let us in further than women had gotten before. I've been invited to a lot of different meetings when I worked in the NHL and NBA that I was definitely the first female that had ever been in that conversation, and it's all thanks to, I had mentors like Darren Elliott, who's still in the NHL, and many other people in the office that were looking out for me and helped me get there. So finding those allies are really important. And the ring.
I see one mic. Do you have a question, or are you just holding a microphone?
I have a question for Heather Davis. You mentioned that you were in administrative and you coached for a bit at UNE, but I'm wondering where or when have you experienced resistance to equality at UNE specifically?
Whoa. Oh, all right. So I can give an example. I mean, let's be honest. No place is perfect, right? And just accepting that is a big deal. I think we can all grow and do better and look for change and have conversations and continue to drive forward. If you ever think you're done and you've made it, well, you're wrong. So that's a great question. So I'll give an example. So I've got the extreme blessing and great fortune to become AD 9 months before COVID hit. So, but one of the first things I learned in having conversations with athletes over that early period was there was some questions about game times, and there was feedback got up to me that there was a particular women's team that didn't think they had appropriate game times. And so we had a conversation, and I did a little digging, and then I changed it. So, I think there's always things that can be done different, right? And I think that had not occurred to me prior to someone coming up to me and saying, I have some feedback to share with you. Because sometimes, as Angela said, sometimes there are things in front of you that you just don't see, and it takes someone to just ask a question. You know, why does this team always play at this time, you know? I don't know, let's talk about it, let's look into it, and let's see if we can improve it. And that was a situation where it was not a difficult situation to change, you know, and we were able to make an immediate difference. So that's one example that we've seen here.
All right, we have one more question, or they're going to kick us out.
Okay, wait. All right, here we go. My name's Aiden. I'm a member of the men's cross country team here, and I'm also a member of Storming to Change, which is our student athlete diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. My question is specifically for you, Angela, but I would like to thank all of you for giving us your time and sharing some of your awesome experiences and accomplishments. Angela, my question for you is that earlier you touched on your relations with your sisters in other sports, such as basketball and the soccer teams, but my question is, what was the relationship like with the men's national hockey team when you were an Olympian? And if it wasn't ideal, what do you wish could have been done to kind of improve the relations between those two teams?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it was different because I didn't get to spend a lot of time with the men's Olympic team outside of the Olympics. And so, of course, when we were at the Olympics, we were all, you know, teammates. We'd sit together in the dining hall and, oh yeah, cool, hey, what's happening? And make friendship with them. But, you know, what would I have done differently? Like ask them to pick up the phone to Gary Bettman and say, we should get more women coaches, we should get more women working for the NHL, we should have more women broadcasters, we should have, you know, I honestly, I can't think of a time where a male NHL player I'm aware of put their neck on the line. Again, that's so hard to do though. Like, I'm not saying this is like an easy thing to do, but in my biggest wishes, it's can they just support me? Can I externally see them tweeting? What they did do is show up to games and cheer us on, and that, like, you're like, oh, they're here for us. Like, I 100% loved looking up. I'm like, oh my God, all the NHL guys are up there cheering for us. This is awesome. So it definitely had a positive effect, just them showing up and being there. But, you know, could they have gone above and beyond? Something as simple as Kendall Coyne, who played in she did the Fastest Skater a few years ago. I don't know if you saw that. I could have done that I wouldn't have won that. Maybe hardest shot probably. But, you know, hey, we should bring the women into this all-star game. Like, can't we just bump a couple guys? And so little things like, again, it would have been, if I had but overall they were always like super supportive in the stands. I don't know if that answers your question. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the men's team, and it's different for every national team and particularly Olympic teams, but I think there's you know, a lot, the equality conversation gets difficult because it's not the same. Yeah. You know, the way the programs are led, and it's not to say one's, you know, better than the others, or just because of the makeup of, you know, NCAAs and just the demographics of the player pool, and, you know, what the opportunities are with the professional leagues, it's different. So, you know, we're not training side by side. It's not the men's program in this, you know, rink at this time and the women's are right after, or vice versa. You know, it's a very different program. So it's you have to work even harder to figure out how to connect those two, because they are really valuable allies. And I think, to your point, there isn't a lot of that happening, but it's not because those players wouldn't necessarily do it. I think it's because they just aren't exposed to it and don't have that knowledge. And to your earlier point, you know, when they become fathers of daughters, maybe that happens, but that's a little later on in the game. So if we can find those times to have more conversations, or just overlap, or you know, we've talked before about having the U18 teams play a game together, you know, mix up the rosters, because the more you get to know people and understand what the struggles are on both sides, then you can, you know, actually let those players go and make change themselves, and doesn't have to come from the few leaders in the office. So just sharing time together, I think, is a real valuable thing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you to our panelists so much. It's going to wrap up this portion. And I think these two are going to come back up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to tonight's event, and thank you so much to our organizers, our speakers, and our sponsors. Let's give them a round of applause one more time for all their hard work on making tonight happen, and the amazing insight from our speakers as well.
All right, so on the screens over there, you'll see there's a QR code, and if you're on the Facebook chat, you'll be able to see it as well. If you could fill out a short attendance survey about tonight's event, that'd be amazing. So just bring out your phone, you can look it up. But anyways, I'd love to say thank you guys so much. This has been amazing. I loved hearing every single one of you guys speak. And I hope everyone has a fantastic and wonderful night.
Thank you.